We jumped in a bit raw today. It was no 1 minute countdown. We're straight in. Apologies to those that have been waiting around from 8 for the live kickoff, but we're here now. Steve should be here in a sec just to confirm everything's a go. But yeah, for those who haven't been here before, this is the Hyped and Humbled show. Hyped or Humbled show, should I say. All things wonderful about Britball. Playoff period is here, is live, ready to go. All the matchups are set, I think, for the big game before the big games. We got the big bowl game with the Prem, and we got the relegation and promotion eliminator games all coming up. Steve will jump in with all the perspective on that, and we got a couple of special guests to give first-hand insight about the game we love from the perspective of guys that have lived it, played it in the States. And from what I gleaned from a brief encounter I've had with these chaps, quite a lot of insight into the professional game as well. So I'll give it 1 minute. Let Steve jump in. And hopefully he'll be able to give a little chit chat about the Britball stuff. And then we will get on to our wonderful special guests that are gracing us with their insight today. Right, come on, Steve. You can do it, my guy. All right. While Steve's on his way, I will welcome my two guests in. I don't like to leave special guests waiting. Welcome, Marlon, and welcome, Andrew. All right, for a little bit of insight, I met these guys Wednesday, and today is Friday. And to be fair, I can't stop thinking about all the questions I wanted to ask, but I didn't get a chance to ask. So again, as we'll get into it, these chaps will enlighten us on what they do in and around sport and ball. And yeah, give us a little bit of background. So who would like to go first? Go on, Marlon, you're senior, right?
Okay, I'm seeing you. So,
Go,
my name
sir.
is.
Yeah, go on.
All right. So, I was going to yield to my the younger brother, but Marlon Murphy, and originally from Jamaica, grew up in the States. Um, Played American football all through high school. Went on to college. Chose not to play in college for just my own personal reasons, but supported my friends that played on that went into the NFL. Um, Subsequently spent the last 20 some odd years around youth sports, in basketball and mainly football, and helping children and their families get to the next level.
Excellent.
um, Same thing with terms of my kids. My son is currently a Division III college football coach. His team has won two of the last three national championships in the D3 level. My nephews, one just finished playing at University of Michigan, another one was at Clemson,
Mhm.
gone to Michigan, is at Michigan. But all of their friends, all of their friends are at different schools, well as LSU, Alabama, Florida, all the big schools, and have friends in the league. But we all are a community of friends and a community or a big village where we constantly support one another because kids will play football but run track. Same
Mm.
thing with basketball, different of that. So these different sports complement one another. Now, my brother could probably go more detail because a lot of the kids he helped train them in track or train them in speed and speed coaching and things like that. But I'll kind of fall back. So yeah, so I'm that uncle and that father figure that
Excellent.
supports the village and things like that because there's a lot of things that go into athletics to keep
Mm.
you on the field or keep you,
Mhm.
on the court. And so I'll kind of stop there.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. Cool. Andrew, go ahead, my guy.
Okay, I'm Andrew Murphy. Currently, I'm the head track and field coach at Alabama A&M University.
Jeez.
I played high school football and had an opportunity to compete at collegiate level of track and field as well. My school is located in Deep South, where football is king. You know, I actually work with a couple of athletes, speed development as well in the off season. We have a lot of dual sport athletes as well in the South in the state of Alabama. I've worked at the collegiate level. Oh, I also coached high school football, coached JV football a year. We went 7-3 that year. I thought it was too much losing, so I was like, let me go back to the track. Track, I can control my outcomes a
Yeah,
bit better. Um, what I can say is, with athletics, world athletics definitely complements all sports, and I think that the game of football in the United States is very time consuming, but it's a lot of fun.
that's excellent. That's excellent. So for me, I speak to a lot of people about the benefits of playing the game. I started playing the game at 23, really, really late. But as a young, big black guy growing up in the UK, I was limited a little bit in what I could do with soccer playing at a grassroots level. So I found American football and I thought to myself, you know what? I like this. Like I can throw myself around and not think the referee's gonna blow the whistle every two seconds because I'm just that much bigger than most of the guys that I play with. I'm playing with guys that are 6 inches taller, 3 inches wider. So I was like, whoa, you know what? I can really throw myself about. And then whenever I talk to guys about the sport of American football, I say to them, look, sport as an institution. Bear in mind, I've never been to the States, but I've watched the documentaries. I've obviously seen the massive history and how sport and sporting prowess is kind of coveted in the States, especially once you get to like the college level and you're bringing in you're bringing the exposure to the establishment because you're a national standard athlete. You're winning this title, that title. So is it true or is it a myth that once you, and again, become a star at collegiate level, you're kind of obviously now with the nil deals and stuff, the name, image, likeness deals that you can get when you're at a college level, are you kind of set and looked after once you're athletically established at college level, or as you say, you have to try and keep yourself on the court, physically, mentally, socially, keep yourself out of trouble so you can actually perform. But once you do perform for a number of years and get that trophy at national level for your college, are you then kind of safe, in life and going forward?
I think from my standpoint, I think it's a
Mm,
double-edged. It's two sides to
mhm,
every coin. Whereas yes, if you can use your alumni network, you can do certain things to set you up. However, as you know, schools are always recruiting
yes.
the next quickest thing,
Yeah.
the next best thing. So one day you could be at the top of the mountain. The next day, anything could happen,
Mm,
whether it be academically, socially, something off the
mhm,
court, that happens that has the next person up and
mhm,
taking your job. So those things definitely can take a effect. However, if you do the things that you're supposed to do, you can be set up.
mhm,
Because at the end of the day, hopefully you're getting great
mhm.
education and setting yourself up with alumni networking
Getting
and
jobs.
those
Yeah,
things. So
yeah.
you can come back, yeah. If you're not a professional athlete, hopefully you become a professional.
That's the word.
But if you are become a professional athlete and you do all the right things, you can be looked at as a god later in
Mm.
life.
Let me weigh in on that a little bit. I think the latter part of Andrew's comments is the key.
Mm,
It's like anything else in life, like there it is an apprenticeship and things like that. You're going to put in your time, but if you're not prepared to take advantage of the benefit, you're going to squander an opportunity.
mhm,
And you'll see a lot of guys in afterwards where they may be that disappointed person in a party or that person that like they're talking about that one particular play from
mm.
1986 and that's
Yeah.
only thing that's being talked about in regards to that person,
Mm,
where somebody that may have been on the same team,
mhm,
right, they maybe passed the ball or was part of that play, has not a successful businesses and this and this and that, right? So
mm,
you're always going to have people that have sympathy, or they not even sympathy, they remember that moment in time
mhm,
and they honor that moment in time. But in terms of taking a financial risk for you and things like that,
mm.
it's not going to it's not going to uh
Automatically
it,
be there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
correct. And
Mm.
I think you get it, you understand what I'm saying.
Okay. So we got obviously via Netflix, we got Last Chance U, which again was a nice behind the scenes of how brutal, ruthless, and obviously you're talking about these schools. I think they profile every season. I mean, they might do 2 schools, and obviously of that, in terms of players that get anywhere near the league, it's probably about 2 or 3 guys. So one of those guys being Spencer Rattler. Obviously, he bounced about a bit, and I think he got himself into certain bits of trouble that, again, if any other student did those kind of things or got that kind of bad press, they may have obviously fallen by the wayside. But where, again, his profile was so big, international, this, that, and he was destined for this, that, and the other. Again, he made it from that program too. I think he's done all right. Has he gone? Has he gone to the pros? I think he has, hasn't he? Spencer
Yeah,
Rattler?
he's with the New Orleans Saints, I
Saints.
believe.
Yeah.
I
So
believe he's with the
again,
Saints.
someone like him who's built that profile and obviously has the talent. And again, he crossed a certain threshold where it looked as if there's kind of no looking back. He hopefully would have had the protection around him to learn from that one incident that gave the bad press to say, you know what, guy, like, sort yourself out. So again, over in this country with soccer, for instance, certain players at 15, 16 years old break into the first teams for these big teams and get these massive contracts. Their families get put into massive houses, moved out, and now they're somewhat guarded and protected from the late night partying, the girls, the stuff that will scandalize their career. They're protected by the clubs, because the clubs are so aware that they're investing in this asset that they don't want them to fall by the wayside, like a lot of the other footballers used to do when they go into these nightclubs, having these scandalous affairs with this, that, and the other. So again, we got all these players that we're hearing about on the way up through Last Chance U and all the rest of that, and trying to fight to get in the league. What is the percentage that actually kind of make it to make a living, like a full living off of the game over in the States? In terms of,
I would say you're talking about the 1%.
it's literally one or less, right?
Yeah. When you think about it, so for example, let's take professional football, right?
Mm-hmm.
32 teams,
Mm-hmm.
53-man rosters,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how many, that's what, 1,500 players.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say it's about 1,500 players. You
Mm-hmm.
come down a level. D1 football is 200 and has it 212 teams, Andy? Right, 200 somewhere around there. But 212. So let's say it's 212.
Mm-hmm.
Each team has 80 to 70 players, right?
Jesus. Mm-hmm.
So then don't forget there's FCS, FBS, then there's Division 2, Division 3. So you're easily talking about over 100,000 people playing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then playing football. And so when you're talking about all those people, then you want to triple down to high schools
Mm-hmm.
and how many people are playing in high school in the States,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're talking about all those people vying for 1,500 jobs. The
Jesus.
average NFL career is 2.5 seasons, 2.5 years, right? The average, that is the average,
Mm-hmm.
because I think they set their pension is either 3 or 4 years. If you make 4 years, then you get pension. So you got to figure these people are vying to get the 4 years. So I would easily say you're talking about the 1%. And let's say, take for example, the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one,
Yeah, it's true.
right? So when you think about it, there's 32 teams
Mm-hmm.
and only 32 starting positions, and there's 5 billion people in the world. That you work off those type of percentages, and I'll shut up a little bit in case my brother wants to add anything.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you talked to 1% of the 1%,
Mm-hmm.
and imagine a person like Aaron Rodgers, who's been in the league longer than some kids we know have been alive, so that job is not going to be
It's
available,
true. It's true. It's true. So, can you make a living in a practice squad and like waiting around for that chance?
No,
That's not a
no,
living, no.
because the practice squad, you're only able to be on a practice squad a set amount of years, like 2 years on the practice squad. If not, you have to
Wait.
you get aged
Yeah.
out. So from there, and those practice squad players, they get a bare minimum. They don't get the
Mm.
NFL minimum. They get a practice squad minimum,
Expenses,
which
accommodations,
hypothetically
basic.
maybe
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then those people also don't get insurance.
Well,
What?
so with the practice squad. So, for example, I had one of my very close friends, Vontae Leach. He's retired from the NFL now, and the things I'm sharing is public knowledge. So, he went to the same university that I started at, and he did not get drafted, and he went undrafted, and ended up on Green Bay Packers practice squad and got moved off the practice squad, like Andrew said in that first year. The fullback at that time, Henderson, took a knee injury, ended up playing, and Bonte moving up after he couldn't play, and he ended up turning that into a 10 or 11 year career. Ended
Whoa.
up winning the Super Bowl with the Ravens, and ended up, I think, in the Pro Bowl 5 out of the 11 years, things like that.
Jesus.
So there is opportunity, but and what Andy's saying, the practice squad, there's also a swinging gate with a practice squad. So let's say you're on the practice squad, each team could keep like 5 or 6 guys, or maybe I forget what the low, but some number under 10 to keep under the practice squad.
Mm.
But let's say Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, like
Mhm.
Andy was saying, so they have to bring another quarterback. Well, the
Mm.
practice squad is where you get released. They release you off the practice squad,
Mhm.
right? And then it's a situation where sometimes they pay you to go away because other teams may want you. If there's a,
Mm.
or let's say I have a team and I want to play off Andy's squad, I
Mhm.
can't move him from Andy's practice squad to my practice squad. I can only take him off Andy's practice squad and put him directly onto my team.
Oh,
So it's a
okay.
very unstable situation, but it's also
Mm.
one that it can be extremely tricky.
Okay, so they have to bear the risk of, just waiting on the call essentially and staying healthy and and meeting their own expense of making that sacrifice to potentially get that spot. That's
Right, but
interesting.
they do get paid. So this is the thing. So when you're in a practice squad, the thing about the practice squad is you can kind of negotiate. So
Okay.
when the draft happens,
Mm.
watch the NFL draft, but when that draft ends that Saturday, watch the next Sunday, that the following day and after, where they
Mhm.
start to sign the unrestricted free agents. And
Yeah.
so that's where it becomes a situation where there's a bidding system,
Mhm.
because let's say um, the team wants Andy and they can charge between me and Andy, but Andy is liked by multiple teams, but I'm only liked by one. So it may be a situation where for him, they may offer him a a chance to come to their camp and be on their practice squad after camp is over. But his signing bonus may be 200,000, and mine only may be 60.
Is that down to the agents then? Do the agents have to do that work or who patterns those deals?
The agents do the work. It's like anything else. It's extremely relationship heavy.
Wow, that's crazy. And a lot of it will be confidential until that's signed. And then will they make it public or be undisclosed? All depends on how they manage the deal.
I would say you have a little bit of both, but they all ultimately become, I think, public knowledgeable where
Because
it's
of the league, transparency in the league and stuff. Okay,
correct.
that's interesting. And the whole situation with the nil deals, I know there was, well, we've heard a lot about it in this country because again, we see the last chance used. We see a lot of these young players due to the internet, social media, they build massive profiles, and obviously the university, the colleges over there, they can feed off that and build massive profiles and massive stadiums, merchandise, all the rest of that stuff. What was your take on that growing up and seeing that evolve and develop? Again, you're working with athletes firsthand, or you would have been in a position if said situation was different when you were younger. You would have probably been on the cusp or close to, maybe even making some money like that in that through that way. How is it kind of? How have you seen it develop over the years?
So it's definitely a fast moving process. I think it's definitely has a lot of wrinkles to be ironed out, but there's definitely room for these athletes to in revenue generating sports to get a piece of the
Hmm.
pie. I think it's getting to that point where we want to. Right now, they're just putting regulations in place to make sure there's a bit more transparency and things are done above board and make sure no one's truly
Mm.
exploited. I guess it's coming to the point now where trying to remove some third party stuff
Yeah.
so that we can avoid situations where potential misdealings
Yes.
and stuff like that. Because we see some athletes, even at professional levels right now, getting tangled up in a web of things,
Yeah.
and students who are getting these funds still are subject to paying taxes on these funds
Wow.
too. So let's make sure that as we're giving these young people opportunities to generate
Hmm.
revenue or get a share, make sure we're also arming them with the tools to be successful and be able to keep
Manage
some
it.
of this stuff
Yeah,
as well.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think, just to add on that, historically, there's always been a situation where um, you spoke a little about this in the beginning, where people are the football and the college sports are part of culture,
Hmm.
right? And because it's part of culture, you have people who support that culture. So, especially when you talk about these big universities, there are people that thrive off of that um, culture and also economic base, right?
Mm.
When you talk about some of these rural towns where that university is the biggest things in the state, right? Because there are no professional teams, things like that. So you have people who are very supportive of that. With that being said, they want to see the program do well. They want to see the school do well. This is the things that they enjoy, and
Hmm.
so through that, you have mechanisms where, like anything else, when it's competition, you have people that want to win,
Hmm.
and so there always been have and have nots in terms of pipelines of funding that are off the books. All right. So I'm not. You
Most
have some
def. No,
people
no, it's true.
that you
Mm.
have some people that didn't participate in it, I'm sure, but then you have some that at the end of the day it's like, hey, we want to make sure that that this happens here. The other part about that is, and Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong, you also have people that are also realists,
Mm.
people who whose families and their siblings and different things are in real hardship situations. And you have people that in there says, hey, you know what? I don't see any harm with removing this or kind of removing this obstacle or helping this family. One of the biggest ones I think about was Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson in basketball did not want to leave Georgetown or
Mm.
whatever, but he had a sister that had a documented mental health condition. I think it was almost like 30 or $40,000 a month in terms of medicine that she needed. And it's like, hey, if I go pro or get this money, this is something that can
Mhm.
help that condition. So when you think about the the disparities in how people live in the United States and how that occurs. And when you say you have that talent to say, you know what, I can help my family out. One of the good documented cases of that is the Sharp brothers, Sterling Sharp and Shannon Sharp, and how they were living in South Carolina, and they had a tin roof, no inside plumbing, and this is in the 1980s, right?
Crazy. Yeah.
And so how can you look at that situation and say, hey, you know what, I can't improve that situation? Not to say they took any money or whatever, but I'm just saying there are other sides of it that the economic ability of playing sports can immediately address how people live on a day-to-day basis.
Mm. No, no, of course. So, because we hear a lot here about, and we see a lot in the stories, in the documentaries, the movies. Is he going to go to the league? Is he going to choose to go to the league? You can even play Madden. I think it's one of the Madden games. You can actually choose to stay in college or go to the league early. And it's one of those ones you don't realize how much of a big decision or kind of no brainer it is for some of them to think, you know what? We just gotta grab this money. You could get injured next year in college and never make it to the league. Why don't you just go and grab the bag now? And it's a bit harsh because for me, just a certain aspect, it's almost like a modern slavery thing. This guy is kind of selling his soul to go and just get that money to take him at home. But at the end of the day, it's a profession, it's a business. And again, if you can benefit from it, then I guess, some of them it's not really even a decision. If it's gonna take your family, your friends, and your nearest and dearest out of poverty, then off you go. So how does it work? Obviously, once you sign that pro contract, then um, obviously they get guaranteed money, right? If there's certain kind of injuries and stuff, that's what they kind of can take away from that. How do the contracts normally get kind of mapped out these days for the pros? Either one of you, I don't mind. Either one of you.
Okay, so the it's interesting. One of the most violent sport, or the sport of the sport that puts the biggest toll on you,
Mm,
physically,
mm,
has is one of the only ones that doesn't have guaranteed money, right?
okay.
And I think that's one of the biggest push that you see in sports now, in American football now. So the
Mhm,
way it works is this: you have a contract. So actually, it's regulated.
mhm.
So based on your draft status. So for
Okay,
example,
yes, yes.
if you're in the first round draft choice, you have X amount of years that you're assigned to that team, and the team has an option year. So it's what, five or six,
Is it
Andrew.
waivers? Is it a waiver? The waivers? I'm
Well,
sorry.
before you get to
Before that.
waivers, right?
Okay.
Before you get to waivers. So
Mhm,
now, if you're a second round pick, you're signed for 4 years.
mhm.
Third round picks 3 years, and it goes from there.
Okay.
So what? But what ends up happening is when you sign your contract, the side that they're capped at a certain range from the top draft choice on down. So a
Mm,
lot of the athletes try to make it to the second contract. Then
okay.
once you get to that second contract, that's where the big money is, and
Mhm,
how it works in the NFL. So let's say I want to sign. I'm going to get signed a 5-year contract,
mhm,
right? So this is my second contract, my 5-year contract. Let's say I'm gonna sign it for 5 years, 100, for easy math, a 5-year, $100 million, right?
mhm.
And let's say 80 million of it is guaranteed,
Okay.
or 80 of it is guaranteed. Now, this is where the tricky part comes in. So the signing bonus, let's say they're gonna guarantee me 80 million, but let's say there's a $30 million signing bonus. So right when I sign, I'm getting a check for $30 million.
Jeez.
And then what they end up doing is they take that 30 million
Mm,
and divide that 30 million is counted over the 5 years of the contract in terms of going to the NFL cap. So they can distribute that.
okay. Yeah.
Now, what ends up happening in the NFL though is you have guaranteed money and not guaranteed. So really what I signed was a 5-year contract for $80 million,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Because they could cut me
And the other
after
20 is
X
gone.
number of years.
Mm,
They don't have to pay the other 20 million, right?
mhm.
So that's what you start to see with the
Wow.
NFL, where it just really depends on how you negotiate, what that
Mm,
standard is, and also your position.
yeah.
So quarterbacks make an X amount of numbers, safety and fullbacks maybe don't make that type of money,
Mm.
right? And things like that. And I'll kind of stop right there a little bit.
So, Andrew, you say you work with athletes. Is that up to pro level as well? Then do you work with actual guys in the league?
Collegiate level, collegiate,
University, college, yeah, up to
uni
college.
kids.
Excellent. And what do you find is the kind of make or break trait for people that you've seen that have gone all the way versus people that have got close and not quite made it? What kind of things should I say get in the way or are to the detriment of these athletes that have got of all the heart and they want to do it, but they just can't kind of make that last step?
Intrinsic values. You have to have a true reason of why you're doing it. and be sold into it 100%. And sometimes, somebody could be a genetic freak, but they're just not mentally, they're not
Yes.
there. Um, uh, like we talked about, there's a finite amount of
Mm.
opportunities for people, and everybody's not going to make it. Everybody would love to be on the cover of a cereal box or something like that, or be walking on
Mm.
water, but that's not going to be the case for everybody.
And in terms of obviously American football is the marquee game. In terms of well, would you say it's bigger than basketball in the States? It's bigger than basketball in the States, right?
For sure, for
So
sure, for sure. To the point where the NFL now is putting the game on Christmas Day,
mm,
which used to be the NBA's
wow.
day, and the NBA is going to take a back seat to
Wow.
the NFL.
So in terms of transferables, because you hear about players, I used to play lacrosse and he's now transferred to play football. Obviously, basketball, the transferable skills are clear. But what sports have you found or have been shown over the years to show to be able to transfer into American football the easiest and the quickest in terms of athleticism and understanding?
Uh,
And that's both of you.
I would say track and
Yes,
field,
obviously, yeah,
track
track.
and field.
Yeah.
Um, whether you're a lineman,
Mm,
where you're a thrower, or you're a skill
mm,
position person, where you are just ballistic and
mm-hmm.
can sprint. Track and
Excellent.
field,
That makes a lot of sense.
athletics.
That makes a lot of sense. Marlon, do you agree? Or
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's just what a lot of these athletes get from track and field and beyond the speed
mm,
is hands down the most transferable. The most
mm,
transferable. You all sometimes you may see somebody who like a base American baseball pitcher will play quarterback and things like
yeah,
that. But
mechanics. Yeah.
hand down those things that carry over the most and most transferable is track and field. With my kids and my kids were playing sports, you ran track. You had to run track.
Mm,
You just had to. And a lot of people do that. So
excellent, excellent. The irony is actually there was a guy over here that came over to went over to the States. Dwayne Chambers. I don't know if you heard of him. He had a bit of scandal over here with drugs, and he was a 100-meter run, absolute monster. But he didn't quite make it. Obviously, the speed of the game, learning the game, hands. People talk about having hands. People don't realize how fast that ball's coming at you when you're playing, when you're tired, when you've just run that 15, 20 meters full pace to turn around and see this bullet coming at you and trying to grab it. He clearly didn't quite grasp it. Now we've got the international player pathway in this program where they grab guys from across Europe, even some from Africa and stuff. So they bring them over, crash course, put them in the boot camp, give them a pro day, and try and get them onto practice squads or into squads over in the States. And it'll be your rugby players. Again, your athletic, your track athletes, but I think the rugby guys have probably made the most impact. And then we have got my guy Efe Abada, who played the game here at a semi-pro stroke amateur level, who managed to do his thing over in the States as well. And again, I've met him personally, absolutely great guy, genetic monster, very, very switched on up here because he knew what he had at his grasp. He actually just grabbed it. So, yeah, so the first guy that went, the athletics guy, absolutely monster on the track. But again, do you think there is that little bit of sprinkle of, I don't know, the fact that these guys obviously playing in the States have been playing it from Pee Wee. Tactically, they know the stuff. And I think it's a psychological game. Because you can go out in the garden and throw a ball around with your friends, that's one thing. But then take it into a stadium under pressure, all the other tangible stuff that's weighing on you when you're trying to exercise these elementary skills. Do you have to have that little something else, that star quality to make it straight up to the top? Marlon, you're smiling. Go ahead, my guy.
I'm smiling because the best way I can explain it and to articulate it when it comes to American football, and that other thing is
Mm.
a high tolerance of pain
Yeah.
and the ability to play through it. When I talked to some of my
Mm.
friends, so I was going to a kind of chiropractor, physio person who also did professional athletes and teams.
Hmm.
And the amount of from Monday through Friday or Saturday, the amount of care that has to go back into putting these guys back together. Every play has a car accident in it. That's the best way I can explain it. So,
Yeah.
can you imagine your body being
Mhm.
involved in a car accident multiple times during a day and doing it again? And so, from that standpoint, when you talk about that little thing, you have to have a little ability to say, okay, I can deal with this pain, or I have to do what I can to condition my body to be able to do this repetitively for half a year, basically.
Okay.
And when you're talking about the size and speed that these guys
Mhm.
are moving and that collision is like, I don't think the average human being could take that on a daily basis, let alone something that they sustain for a 10-year period of time. When I'm talking about 10-year period of time, I'm talking about youth athletic, high
Mhm.
school athletic, college athletics to get to the pros.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Andrew, as a strength and conditioning guy, how do you condition your athletes and prepare them for that extra level of resilience that you're gonna have, knowing that you're going in there for multiple car crashes a game and coming out the other side ready to go in another few days or the next week? How do you prepare an athlete for that
Uh,
safely?
at the end of the day, you have to prepare the athletes for exactly what they're going to
Mm,
see. You know, you have to get extremely strong and maintain during the off season. But the main thing
mm,
is recovery during the season. You know, like as Marlon said, if you're going through a car wreck, you have to make sure that you're doing the little things to put the body back together, get it back in that
mm,
body shop. You know, you got to make sure you're doing the little things to make sure they're recovering properly, so that the injuries don't, little nicks and bruises don't become major
yes.
injuries. So that's
Yeah,
what
so
you
over here, again, one of the terms that I got to learn when I started playing the game is prehab. So obviously you got your rehab, but you got preventative care before you even get hurt. You know, you're getting your body ready in the places where you know you're vulnerable to not get those injuries. I always found when I got to a session, it wasn't until we had a running back who was a good 6, 7, 8 inches shorter. So it always hit me in and around this armpit area on a play, and you'll be like, all right, cool. We're starting this session. I need to get low so this guy doesn't blow my shoulder out. So it kind of you have to be ready to kind of switch on, so to speak, to again what is the threat of the game and not going in like committed probably to protect yourself. So I always say to a lot of people, the hits probably sound worse than they are because it's when you go in half-hearted and the guys hit you 100%, you've gone in there 75. That 20% differential, 25% differential could really, really put you on a stretcher in a neck collar for a long time if you're not prepared and you're ready. Go ahead, Marlon, jump in, man.
oh, you know what you said. You just it's funny. I've been at my brother's side of watching him coach his athletes,
Mm,
and at the same point in time, same thing with the host of family members and other people I've been around and just in when you get this other sport. The other thing I would say is to be coachable.
there we
There
go.
are so many people that have the talent
Mm,
and maybe have the determination, but they're
mm,
not coachable.
mm,
What is their ability to listen, process, and apply information? And I
mm,
give you a real example. I know people who have the size and speed and have gotten to the college game and
mm,
got their body mangled, got their shoulders
mm,
ripped out of the socket because they're not applying a proper technique. And I'm
mm,
talking about among that offensive line. When you talk about that offensive line and defensive line, it's hand to hand combat pretty much,
mm,
right? And
mm,
so you have people who are very technically
mm,
sound. Because of technical sound, somebody who's bigger, stronger, more athletic, they will rip them to shreds.
200%.
And next thing
Mm,
you know, yeah, they have a separated shoulder and
mm,
all these other things. And when you start having those damage, the body, the body's not meant to be pulled apart that way.
mm,
But I say that to say, being coachable is the other thing that gets people to that level. And if you're not going to be coachable, you're
Never
actually
gonna be
wasting your time and you won't get hurt. That's the one thing I
100%.
would say also, that piece about that. You know, when you think about a lot of these coaches, they've been coaching for 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm,
And there's little things that they can tell you that will make your goals come true, but also make you much more successful at what you're trying to obtain.
mhm,
And so that's the other part about it that I would say, especially in football, it's the ultimate team game, right? And
mm,
so I was to say being coachable. If you're not coachable, you won't do well.
mm. So I was fortunate to play the game from a development level in this country. So that's before the structured D's. We had a kind of 6 to 9 months of development football where we just hammered home the fundamentals. So tackling, we had it broken down like from literally slow mo, head in, rush to the side, bring the shot. And I think to myself, a lot of players will come in cold without this information of how to protect yourself just because they want to get that big hit. They want to throw themselves around and not realizing there's an ambulance over there for a reason. Yeah. You can literally lose your head because you've lost your head. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that coachability thing was a definite theme through a lot of my time playing. But you'd always find that player who was an excellent athlete. He kind of got away with a little bit more than the other guys because the coaches are like, you know what? We'll let him play on the edge. He can say one or two. We'll let him kind of and just throw him in the mixer because we know he's effective. So me now, I coach, I work with youth, I work with a lot of the talented athletes. And yeah, the ego often follows the talent. I even had the issue with a guy today at one of the community sessions that I was running. Young guy, excellent athlete, great at playing ball, but you could just see he was so happy to wind up the guys on the other side because he knew he was kind of above everyone else in effort. But to his detriment, when he was asked by one of the adults, given an instruction for the safety and the flow of the game, he lost his head and started kind of literally biting back and throwing arms around towards an adult. I think to myself, he hasn't grasped the importance of being an all-round team working individual that's gonna get you to that next level. That's gonna get you to the trials. It's gonna get the coaches saying, you know what, this guy's a good person and he's a good athlete. And yeah, so he's young. Again, I know his family, I know his mum. I had to speak to his mum after the session. And again, she said, oh yeah, I know what he's like. I know. I said, look, he was getting fouled during the session. He got up, he got on with it. I spoke to him, whatever. So the intent is there to be you know, an upstanding coachable athlete, but understanding what that means in the heat of the moment when you're riled up and you're is a whole different kettle of fish. So yeah, I learned the hard way in practice. We were practicing on an old school AstroTurf, which is like the carpet with the sand on it, and I actually hit the quarterback in practice. And to make it worse, I pushed off of him as I got up. Oh my God, the way my coach came over. If you ever do that again, you're never playing this sport. And at that point, I didn't realize the importance of leaving the quarterback alone. That's why he wears the bright red jersey. Da, 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 da. Obviously, now as a coach myself, I would do exactly the same thing. If a player did that in practice after having been warned, because of the value, even at an amateur level, the value of the quarterback in the game and the scheme. Right, the flag game. What's the flag game like in the States? Is it played at a lot of levels amateur? Is it starting to get more exposure because of the Olympics in 2028?
I think the flag game is always big because you play flag from the time kids can pretty much
Amen.
walk. So they're like leagues with like six and under
Jeez.
youth flag games, and they play on a
Six and
short
under.
field, almost like you play almost like how you
Yeah,
would play three on
basketball.
three for playing
Oh, with soccer.
no, almost like you have short for
Excellent.
soccer leagues. Yeah, yeah. With you have you play
Mm,
three aside. Same thing you
that's
do for
amazing.
flag. That same
Mm,
situation, and you play even into university. They have intramural teams that play other
that's
colleges and stuff
amazing.
like that. Then they have grown men. They have senior teams where men even over 40 are
That's
playing flag.
awesome, man.
So flag is big, and especially even with
Yes,
women.
yes.
They have women
Mm,
flag leagues as well. So that have been big for the last
that's
15, 20
awesome.
years. So flag is definitely something that I think um, it has its own audience because it's a completely different game.
Mm,
And I think the Olympics is definitely going to be
okay.
special.
Anything to chuck in there about flag one? Have you ever played?
Um, maybe in PE in school. However,
Yeah.
so I run a boys and girls club on the board of it.
Excellent.
And so for example, our girls team is now commissioned as one team in our county that is
Jeez.
funded through the NFL down into
No
the
way.
school system or whatever. So yeah, so
Excellent.
what Andrew's saying is 100%. And with the onset of the concussions, what
Okay.
you're seeing now is a lot of parents delaying their children into playing full contact to the point
Mm,
where you're seeing people are not allowing their children to play full contact until um, high school,
okay.
because what you can get from the full what you can get from the flag game in terms of technical
Fundamentals as well, yeah.
yeah, fundamental knowledge and things like that. You
Hmm.
can teach the tackling, but it's
Later on.
also preserving the body. So you're
Mm,
seeing a lot of things coming on with flag, and flag is growing, but it's definitely a big thing in terms of what you see with girls and things like that, and getting girls into the sport.
excellent, excellent. I was fortunate enough to work with the NFL in the UK over here. Actual NFL UK. For the under 16, so secondary school, high school, and below, the national championship. So what they do, a couple of levels, they'll actually send teams over for the Pro Bowl, Super Bowl. They'll actually send guys over to play in the States, representing obviously the best of the best over here. And then the others will get to play during halftime of the games that are played over here at Wembley and Tottenham. And again, it's so good to see the way the game's adopted over here, because at primary school level, especially, the young girls are somewhat fundamentally as good as, if some of them are actually better than the boys. So you're seeing these teams of mixed athletes, male, female, on primary school level, and they're enjoying the sport. Everyone's taking part. Again, a lot of the time, a lot of the girls are actually better than the boys, up to about 11, 12 year old, when the boys start to then get obviously physically stronger, taller, faster. Then it varies. But at the same time, I went to a university competition. I refereed there, and again, you got a couple of females dotted in there that play to the national level, turning up. And I actually flagged the girl for nonchalance. She scored a touchdown, so blasé. I later found out she played for the Great British Program, so that's why she ran that massive post, caught it, jogged in, and I was just like, wow. She was wiping the floor with the guys just for the fact that she plays regularly. She's got to a national standard, so she's getting coached by the best of the best in this country. And as you say, once you get that coaching in place, once you protect them, feed them the knowledge, as you say, if you got feed down from the NFL and local putting the money in to make it interesting, to make it fun for them, it's a massive institution. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out 2028, because that's going to be the massive marquee kind of global showpiece for the sport. Yeah, all good. What do you think about the NFL players that want to get involved and how they're going to pick the teams to represent the states? Because again, it's gonna be an interesting debate. Andrew is one who works with elite athletes. How do you think they're going to go around picking the squad?
I don't think you'll see any NFL involvement
Cool. It's specialist,
whatsoever.
right?
There'll
It
be
is
zero.
very specialist. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. But remember,
Amateur.
Olympics pretty much will start
Yeah.
at, yeah, but not even that. They pretty much start at the beginning of the
Oh,
NFL
okay. So
season.
it's going to be a
So
conflict.
these
Yeah.
all, I couldn't see them. It's conflict directly with their primary
Okay.
job.
Excellent.
So I don't think. I think you'll see probably people. There'll probably be an open trial
Mm.
period, and you'll probably get elevated, and go
Do you
from there.
think an individual can run a flag? So if you've got an elite quarterback, you think they could make that massive difference in the flag game, or do you think it's an all-round everyone kind of contributes thing? Because again, they say defense wins championships, but you can't beat someone who can get the ball where it needs to get to. What do you think the main key is to having that team that's going to take it all the way? Look.
Oh, you have to have some
Mm,
elite athletes who are very special and
mhm.
tuned.
It's tuned,
You
yeah,
know, I think
chemistry. Mm,
if you're
mm,
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. You know, it's just like if you watch a game on television now, Tom Brady,
mm,
for example, if Tom Brady was out there playing flag football
mhm,
at the quarterback, he'd be very
yeah.
special. But at his age right now, he couldn't play at that level.
But then
But
up here, you
if you
think up here
if
he's
you
still
had a
got it
person
at,
like
at that level, but to be able to execute it, right? You're saying it's beyond
oh
him
yeah, yeah. The thing is this, but yeah, you got to remember. I think in the situation
mm,
with the Olympic Games for the flag, they're probably going to play probably about
in a
8 games in probably
yeah.
about 17 to
That's a
20
good shot.
hours. You know, there's some real wear and tear on your body, and you can be actually being chased around and stuff. And we don't
Yeah.
know what specialized rules they will
It's
be
I,
having.
I saw his
You when
40
you
at the draft. He wasn't really moving, but it was moving. That's interesting. The speed at which they move and the way that they move when they play flag, the dynamic
right,
nature of that, you need to be
exactly.
conditioned differently. Go ahead, Barner.
I differ a little bit from our brother a little bit. So, for example, these professional athletes are so fine tuned. Like one, I don't think any. I agree with him. This I don't think you'll see any NFL players in it. For what he's saying, but also there was a time, for example, the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl they
Mm,
had flag football, and one of the main running backs tore his knee up, and it was kind of like, oh, so from an injury
mhm.
perspective, I mean, going back to some of these contracts, and Andrew knows some of these
Is it worth
contracts,
risking it?
they they won't allow you to play, like for example, pickup basketball. You play pickup basketball on an NFL contract, you get hurt, it
Oh, if
voids
you're
your
not covered.
contract. So they're not
Yeah.
allowed to ride jet skis or motorcycles and all this other stuff. No, some of that stuff is
Mhm.
negotiated in the contract. So I agree with Andy on this. However, for example, somebody like Michael Vick. Michael Vick can come out there and today, and at the end of the
Yeah.
day, probably be
Chuck
the
it up.
best
Yeah.
quarterback on the thing. Or you take some of these guys that were in these big Power Five conferences, these big
Mhm.
school conferences, they can be part. You're not checking some of these guys. I mean,
Mhm.
these, when you talk about these guys are 6'2", 6'3",
They can move.
200, let's say
Mm.
230 pounds, and they running
Mm.
a 40-yard dash in 4 or 5 seconds.
Wildly.
You talk
Mm.
about a different level of speed, movement. I mean, these days you have linemen that are 300 pounds and running a 40-yard dash in under 5 seconds.
It's crazy. As you say,
I
car
mean,
crash, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
It's
I just think you got the everyday people, and then you got them finely tuned athletes, and there is a different breed. So
all right. So what they've done in this country, they've started a new version of the game. They call it the Elite Five. So you got a five-man squad. If any five of you on the field at the moment, at any one time, I think the field's going to be the size of a flag field, but it's full contact. So I
mm,
think you have to have at least center, QB, and then I'm assuming it'll be a combination of three wide receivers or two receivers full running back. I don't know. Obviously, formation and stuff. I'm not sure if there's any restrictions, but again, you got a five-man setup. How would you set up on? I'll go Marlon. You set up on offense, and then Andrew, you come back with a defense. So how would you set up your offense, Marlon, with a five-man? Obviously, quarterback, center.
yeah, so it depends. So, like for example, do they allow the quarterback to run? Right. So you
I'm
have your
guessing
those.
it'll
So
be flag rules. I think it'll be flag rules.
okay,
So quarterback
okay. So
would
the
be
court
able to run.
when he's
Um,
blitzed or something like that, once every
yeah,
three
yeah,
downs, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So,
Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm definitely having a quarterback. I'm
yeah,
also so I'm going to have three wide receivers.
yeah.
So I'm gonna
Center's
have three
eligible as well,
wide
by the way. Center's eligible as well.
center eligible.
So
Well,
you can pick a center that's also versatile.
right. So he's
Tight end
not.
body, maybe.
Yeah, definitely tight end body. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking at a quarterback,
Mm,
center,
mm.
and then two wide receivers and a running
and
back.
then
But a
a running
running
back
back
type
is
flex
the
guy,
but a running back is going to be type uh,
flexy kind of.
like a Christian McCaffrey,
Yeah.
or somebody like LaShawn McCoy type, somebody who can
Ooh.
catch and things like that. Yeah, but that's what I'm looking at. So
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure if they're in pads, I'm guessing that center's blocking as well. So I'm guessing it's
yeah.
full contact. There's no worry about moving out the way of the blitz or whatever. Andrew, how you combating that offense that he's coming with?
I think
You got to apply a lot of pressure
Yeah,
early. A lot of pressure early, and make sure talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
full contact. Definitely got to put hands on body
So more backers than
early,
DBs,
and
or what?
try
What
to
kind of
disrupt.
setup are we talking about in bodies?
Oh, I stay with more
More DBs
DBs
than backers,
than
but you want them
backers.
DBs that can fly, right?
And yeah, and definitely I'll probably get some
Yeah.
bigger DBs who can
Mhm.
really move. And definitely try to make sure we keep everything in front of us and keep everything short.
Excellent, excellent. What is the emphasis on the off the field study? Obviously, the analytics in the NFL are just crazy. Like they go deeper than the deeper than the deep. But in terms of the different levels of the game, is there a strong emphasis on obviously knowing the opponent you're coming up against, studying the man opposite you? Is there a big emphasis on that from a young level, or is it we're gonna play our game and we're gonna get it done? What's the general culture in the states at levels, different levels of the game?
football.
I think football, even at the youth level, there's always
Mm,
scouting reports done
mhm,
even at the youth level and stuff like that, and with more and more
mhm,
technology that's available. I think at the younger the athletes are, it's more so the coaches
mhm,
and the staff doing a lot of that scouting and the analytics portion of it, and bringing it, try to
mhm.
simplify it to the
Yeah,
athletes themselves. Obviously, when you get to high school,
yeah.
college, and be more ownership be placed on the student athletes once, but they're still going to be given schemes, and they'll have to adapt based on whomever the coach is. But at the professional level, I think clearly is one of those situations now where athletes are expected to live that life, where they're expected to get look at their notepad or the iPad or whatever it is, and watch the film, do film study at home, watch it with the meeting groups and whomever, and be ready to go. And when that adaptation process is, or the wrinkles are put in each and every week prior to the game.
Excellent, excellent. Marlon, yourself. So you said you played up to end of high school, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
would they
Yeah.
have classroom sessions, watching film and stuff like that in high school level, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, the high school place I played for is in the our state high school hall of fame and that type of stuff. So you, I, I would say time. Time is one of the biggest factors to say, okay, what you have. So yeah, Andy's right. 100% in terms of watching film and learning technique. For example, you have coaches. I know, and even in our state championship game or the playoff game, our coaches were so detailed to where if I'm the DB, I played safety, so I could call our formations or call our audibles and this and that. Our coaches were so detailed where the right guard on their team, his angle of his back was different on running pass plays,
It was giving it
right?
away,
They
yeah.
trained us in
Spot.
1 week to look at that and picked up on that tail. So when we're in the game, we could tell it was a run play or pass play,
And you
right?
wouldn't say it between each other, you just kind of
No, no, no,
keep
no. We
you'll keep
yell
it.
pass, pass,
Oh,
pass.
so
We
you say
yell
it
it,
straight. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. Cool.
they don't know what's the
What the key
tail
was.
given
Yeah,
to
yeah,
us.
the tell
I
was.
mean,
That
and
makes
this
sense.
is 30 years ago. So, but
Mm,
in speaking to my son and watching my son train as a quarterback and things like that, the biggest thing is also this training and conditioning these kids and these young men and young girls have, and said how much time you have. So when you're in school, you only have X amount of hours that you can do studying and applying this
mm,
stuff. Or whereas like Andrew was saying, once you get into pros, that is your job. That is your
yes.
life. And that determines whether you pay your bills or, for example, if you have X number, let's be real about it, if you have 4 or 5 like if me and Andy are playing and we're trying to compete, I have to pay for my mortgage, my kids, let alone if I have any other baby mamas on the side or whatever like that, my child support and all that thing. Hey, I'm gonna do what I gotta do to make sure everybody eats and survives because I'm not allowing you to impact my livelihood. And so whatever time I gotta put into to do this X amount of years to take care of what they take care of, that's what needs to be done. And so you'll see guys putting in hours upon hours upon hours to do those things. And the ones that don't, they either have the talent to skip around it or you don't see or you see them flush through the system.
Awesome, that's awesome. So, NFL this season coming. Any hot takes, both of you? Give me your predictions for what's gonna go down. I'm a betting man, so I might have to put some money down. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I think right now, the one thing is I think Micah Parsons ends up
Mm,
getting becoming the highest
mm,
paid player. I think Dallas Cowboys going
mhm,
to end up paying him. He's going to be the highest paid player in
mhm.
NFL history, and I think Aaron Rodgers won't last the
Jeez,
season.
and who's gonna take the ball? Who's gonna win it all? Who's gonna go all the way?
Hey, you know what? Right at that point, I'm saying put my money on the
Yeah,
Chiefs,
it's a
man. You
comeback.
know
Yeah.
they're going to be there.
Well, go on, go on. Yeah, a few hot takes from you,
Okay,
sir.
a few hot takes. I think that the Baltimore Ravens
Okay.
they improved their defense significantly. And I think at the end of the day, I think they're going to push through this year. I think in the AFC is going to be between Baltimore and maybe Buffalo.
Mm.
I think the Chiefs are coming back very strong. They've improved the offensive line, but the Ravens they got the way they put their secondary together and what it's going to be very hard to pass on them and let alone what they bring and what they added to with Lamar. And you're talking about somebody who's not a Raven fan. But I will say this: those Philadelphia Eagles, whew, they are loaded, reloaded. They're deep. They're multiple levels deep. And Saquon and what they put through, they lost a couple pieces on their offensive line or whatever. So we'll see when they lost Becton and allowed him to walk the big guard. But the Eagles are very deep. I think they will come down to what happens because they lost Kellen Moore. Because if anybody doesn't know, the offensive coordinator left to become the coach of the New Orleans Saints, and they lost a couple
Interesting.
other coaches to say, okay, what's going to happen. Other than that, they reloaded. I think that Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, the head coach, they need a buffer, and I think that Kellen Moore provided that this year and a lot this last past season. So that the other thing is I'm a Washingtonian fan, and I think that boy Jaden Daniel, he's going to continue to put fear in people's heart. That's a bad boy. So
Well, I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm glad you touched on them. And yeah, what Saquon did last season was again, everyone knows he's got it in him, but you need the guys. Well, I say you need the guys up front. He's a monster anyway. I was a big Todd Gurley fan. I used to play a lot with him on Madden. He was in his prime. He was just again, he was a monster, crazy athlete. Obviously, you got your Lamar Jacksons and your Patrick Mahomes, who obviously light up the league. OBJ, that massive catch. So we over here grasp the superstars because of the way we get the highlights, because of the way they're profiled on the Sky Sports over here. But yeah, it's nice to see they're picking up a lot here on the whole draft process. Obviously, the college game is getting more higher profiled here as well. We can watch it all on the ESPN and whatever over here. So yeah, it'll be interesting once the league kicks off and the buzz builds again. Plus the games coming up, go over here as well. They'll be having, I think, 3 games over here. There'll be one in Germany as well. They've got the big university game. They'll have one sometimes in Ireland. So yeah, there's a lot of football around. And again, you guys are always welcome, and I'll personally invite you again once the season kicks off because I think they're gonna do an NFL hot take show. So it'll be nice to hear the pros talking about the pros. But yeah, Yeah, appreciate your time today. Again, it's been nice to get to know you in the presence of obviously the avid fans. I love to hear the people that really experience it talk about the sport. And as I say, I'll definitely try and get you on again. We'll have a good talk, and yeah, hopefully those Eagles will fly high. But now, again, thank you so much for your insight. Again, you're welcome to share anything else you want to share before you go. Again, this platform is really for a lot of the fans that have taken that step to get involved in the sport. A lot of players, coaches, a lot of people are interested in obviously just taking in the sport at the level over here. And again, hopefully you'll get to see one of the games, one of the British games here. I'll make sure I'll share the details of the big final over here so you can see how the best of the best of the best play in this country. And again, it'll be interesting to get your take on the level over here, because again, we don't get the professional input in terms of the finances and the funds and the profile of the sport, but guys do really commit to really making the best of the best of their opportunity, being coachable. A lot of guys go on to be coaches as well because they want to see the game kind of grow. There's quite a few big leagues in Europe, across Europe and beyond, that are trying to emulate and copy what, again, the Americans have done, but obviously we'll never catch up as such. Interesting to see what 28 and flag will do if, again, America don't win it. It'll be like, hold on a minute, there's room here at the party. But yeah, again, thank you for your insight today on this, and I'll definitely make sure I reach out to you guys, and you're always welcome to pop in. Make sure you save the socials, because the show essentially is open to anyone and everyone, but obviously I made the space open to you guys as special guests today. I know time is precious, and again, thank you so much, because I know you're over on holiday and whatnot. And yeah, as I say, I'll get you in again. You're more than welcome anytime if you see the show pop up on the socials. It is a thing where people can just scan the link and jump in like you guys are in today. And yeah, who do you support, by the way? What teams do you support?
As I said, I'm a Washington.
Washington. Yeah, you're from
Washington, the Commanders, previously the football team, and previously that the Redskins. So Washington fan.
Okay, and Andrew, you Washington as well?
No, not at all, not at all. Not at all. My team, I actually like the New York Jets. I'm a Jets fan. I'm a big Jets fan.
All right, so I'm an Eagles fan, so we'll see. We will catch up on the other side of kickoff. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
All right.
No, you're always
appreciate
welcome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you for having us.
Thank you.